Dragon King Aric Maerovan banished Tavia Wren from the Ember Cloud Vault because she counted civilians before soldiers. That was the charge Cloud Marshal Rethan Calder chose to read aloud before the High Cloud Arsenal. Not treason. Not sabotage. Something worse in a kingdom that fed its banners on conquest. Caution. Tavia stood on the black glass platform beneath the mountain sky while dragon soldiers watched from the storm bridges above her. The High Cloud Arsenal had been carved into the upper spine of Mount Vere, where cliffs cut through cloud banks and iron chains held floating vaults against the wind. Behind her, the Ember Cloud Vault glowed like a captured sunset inside a fortress of bronze ribs and ember glass doors. Within it, dragon-breathed clouds rolled in layered chambers, red siege clouds, black choking clouds, gold signal clouds, and the forbidden violet banks that could turn an open valley into a killing storm before hoofbeats reached the road. Tavia had counted all of them, not by beauty, not by size, by drift, pressure, civilian reach, ember density, and the number of breaths a child could survive beneath them. That was why the Marshal hated her. Rethan Calder stood before the vault in a white Cloud Marshal cloak fastened with dragonbone pins. His hair was silver at the temples, though he was not old enough to deserve it honestly. His face had the polished calm of a man who never needed to shout because documents, soldiers, and fear all obeyed him first. In one hand, he held Tavia's storm count slate. In the other, he held the royal removal order. This servant delayed the Western campaign release by recording civilian drift against command priority, Rethan said. She marked 3 combat clouds unsafe because wind may carry them beyond enemy fortifications. May, someone repeated from the bridge with a laugh. Tavia did not look up. She knew their faces without needing them. Dragon riders with ember-scarred jaws, officers who had never slept below a cloud path, young soldiers who believed a storm was clean because they stood above it. Rethan turned a page. She further hid Old Storm, counts from the command table, claiming the vault's pressure cycle would endanger our own descent routes. Tavia lifted her eyes then. Because it will. The laugh died badly. Rethan smiled as if she had stepped exactly where he had placed the knife. You hear her, Majesty. She believes the Ember Cloud Vault knows war better than its king. Dragon King Aric Maerovan stood at the edge of the eastern storm bridge, and even before he spoke, the arsenal bent around him. Not physically. Worse. Every soldier straightened. Every chain rune glowed deeper. Even the clouds inside the vault pressed toward the glass as if they recognized the heat in his blood. Aric wore black scale armor beneath a dark red mantle cut short for flight. His hair was burnished bronze, braided back from a severe face marked by one pale burn line across his left cheekbone. His eyes were amber gold, bright and hard, the kind of eyes that made command feel older than speech. He was beautiful, in the way flame was beautiful. From a distance, Tavia had served beneath his vault for 6 years and spoken directly to him only twice. Once when he asked whether a gold signal bank could cover a retreat. Once when she told him no. He had remembered. She saw it now in the way his gaze settled on her. Not curious, not kind, but sharpened by recognition. Tavia Wren, he said. Her name carried through the arsenal without needing volume. She bowed. Majesty, did you conceal storm counts from campaign command? Yes. A murmur passed over the bridges. Rethan's smile widened. Aric's expression did not change. Why? Because the first count was altered. Rethan's hand tightened on the slate. Tavia felt the movement more than saw it. Aric saw it too, though he gave no sign. Altered by whom? I do not know. Convenient, Rethan said. Tavia turned toward the vault. The ember glass doors pulsed with stored lightning. The Western release count says the red siege banks will break over Blackmere Fortress and collapse before the valley villages. That is false. The heat core is swollen. The 3rd and 5th cloud chambers have been cross-fed. If released in campaign sequence, the storm will roll past the fortress, down the civilian road, and back against our own descent cliffs. You are a counter, Rethan said. not a commander. And clouds do not become obedient because a commander likes the map. Several soldiers hissed. Aric stepped down from the bridge. The air grew hot. Tavia forced herself not to move. Every instinct told her to lower her head further, soften her words, survive the moment. But beyond the mountain lay 5 valley villages under cloud shadow, and below the arsenal waited 6,000 dragon soldiers who believed the skies above them had been measured honestly. Aric stopped before her. He was taller than she expected up close, built like a blade held too long in fire. The burn scar along his cheek gleamed faintly red beneath the vault light. "You accuse my marshal of falsifying a war count," he said. "I accuse the count of being false. That is not the same answer." "No," Tavia said. "It is the only one I can prove." His eyes narrowed. For one breath, the noise of the arsenal faded. She smelled hot metal, storm water, dragon smoke, and the faint, bitter scent that came when stored clouds pressed too hard against ember glass. Aric smelled it too. His jaw moved once, almost imperceptibly. Then the forbidden violet banks pressed against the glass. A faint branching line of violet light pulsed beneath Aric's throat, as if his dragon remembered being caught under a storm he had once ordered released. Tavia saw it. So did Aric. His face closed. Rethan stepped closer. "Majesty, the campaign window closes before moonrise. If the army does not descend under cloud cover, the Blackmere rebels will evacuate their munitions through the lower roads. We lose the fortress, the valley, and perhaps the Southern Crown tribute." Political pressure settled across the platform like another storm. Tavia saw it reach Aric. Not doubt. Wait. A king's calculation. Fortress, road, tribute, soldiers, timing, reputation. The border houses watching from afar to see whether the Dragon King could still command weather without flinching. But the Ember Cloud Vault did not judge loyalty. It sealed when a campaign sequence would kill beyond its declared warpath. That was the old rule. The rule Rethan had stopped reading aloud. Tavia looked at Aric. "If you release them now, the vault will count what you refuse to count." Rethan laughed softly. "Now the servant threatens us with arithmetic." "No," Tavia said, "with weather." The Ember Cloud Vault groaned behind her. Every soldier looked up. Inside the glass, the red siege clouds shifted against their chamber walls, not breaking, aligning, layer over layer, pressure over pressure, as if an unseen hand had begun stacking the storm in reverse. Tavia's stomach went cold. The vault had heard the campaign sequence being armed. Aric turned toward it. "Is that normal?" Rethan answered too quickly. "Pre-release pressure adjustment." Tavia whispered, "No." Aric looked back at her. She met his gaze. "It is sealing." Rethan's voice sharpened. "Enough, Majesty." The campaign horns sounded from the lower mountain. The dragon army was beginning its descent. Aric's eyes flashed with command and conflict. Then he made the wrong choice. "Remove her from the vault," he said. 2 cloud guards seized Tavia's arms. The words struck harder than their hands. Rethan leaned near her as they pulled her from the platform. "Caution is not loyalty, little counter. It is fear, wearing a clean cloak." Tavia did not answer him. She looked past him to the vault. As the guards dragged her across the black glass, her storm count slate slipped from Rethan's hand and struck the platform. It cracked. The Ember Cloud Vault went silent. Then every cloud inside it turned black at the center. Above Mount Ver, the sky split open with ember light. Across the sealed storm, 5 burning drift lines opened in the sky, not toward Blackmere Fortress, toward the valley villages. And below the mountain, the entire dragon army vanished behind a wall of sealed storm. The sealed storm swallowed the dragon army before the court could call Tavia Wren a coward. Below Mount Ver, 6,000 soldiers disappeared beneath walls of ember-black cloud. One moment the descent roads shone with armor, wing banners, dragon saddles, and the copper flashes of war helms. The next, storm sealed around them from cliff to cliff. not falling from the sky but rising from the mountain's own breath. It climbed in a ring, thick as molten ash, and closed above the army like a lid. No screams reached the high cloud arsenal. That was worse. Dragon soldiers were trained to roar at death. Silence meant the storm had taken sound first. On the black glass platform, Tavia stopped struggling against the guards. Her arms still hurt where their hands bit into her sleeves, but she barely felt them. Her eyes stayed on the 5 burning drift lines now stretched across the sealed sky. Not toward Blackmere Fortress, toward the valley villages. The first line crossed the mill road. The second bent toward the low orchard roofs. The third ran over the river bridge where refugees would flee if they saw red clouds. The fourth touched the school chapel. The fifth curved past all of them and disappeared behind the mountain's western descent, where Aric's army had just vanished. The vault had not rebelled. It had corrected the lie. Cloud Marshal Rethan Calder lifted his voice before fear could grow teeth. "Majesty, the vault has malfunctioned under unauthorized storm count interference." Tavia turned on him. "No." Every eye snapped to her. Rethan's expression hardened. She should already be removed. "The Ember Cloud Vault does not seal for interference," Tavia said. "It seals when the declared warpath is false." The air itself seemed to listen. Aric Maerovan stood beneath the burning sky, the violet storm scar under his throat pulsing brighter now. It lit the edge of his jaw from beneath his armor like lightning trapped under skin. He looked from the drift lines to the storm wall below. For the first time, Tavia saw uncertainty fight command across his face. Rethan stepped between them. "Majesty, every breath spent entertaining her interpretation leaves the army trapped under sealed descent weather. We must force release before pressure kills them." "Force release," Tavia repeated. "Through which path?" Rethan's eyes flicked. "Small. Fast. Enough." Aric saw it. "Tavia," the king said, voice low. "Read the drift." Rethan turned sharply. "Majesty, bring her back to the vault." The guards hesitated. Aric did not look at them. Now, they released her as if she had burned them. Tavia walked back across the black glass on unsteady legs. She did not mistake the order for trust. Aric was not choosing her yet. He was choosing information because the mountain had sealed his army, and the sky was accusing his campaign. Still, when she passed him, he shifted just enough that Rethan could not stand at her shoulder. A small thing, dangerous to notice. She knelt beside her cracked storm count slate. The break ran through the western release sequence, splitting the original marks from the altered pressure line. Storm counting was not arithmetic, though marshals loved to reduce it to columns. A count was breath, heat, burden, path, and consequence. One wrong line could turn weather from shield to slaughter. Tavia placed her palm over the crack. The slate was hot. Too hot. She swallowed pain and looked up at the vault. Opened the first chamber view. Rethan snapped. "She has no authority." Aric's eyes stayed on the sealed storm below. "I gave it." The words struck the platform. Not softly, not kindly, but they struck on her side of the glass. Bronze ribs around the Ember Cloud Vault groaned. The first chamber's ember glass cleared, revealing the red siege bank swollen against its seals. It should have held in layers, heavy at the front, thinning before the civilian valley. Instead, its heat core had been fed from underneath, making it roll longer and lower than any war map would admit. Tavia pointed to the sky. "That is the first drift line. The declared target is Blackmere Fortress. The true pressure crosses the mill road before it touches the fortress wall." A murmur broke across the bridges. Rethan spoke over it. "Civilian roads empty during war release." "No," Tavia said. "Civilians empty when they are warned." Aric's gaze sharpened. She continued before Rethan could stop her. "The villages were not warned because the campaign count says the storm collapses before reaching them. If released, the cloud would arrive before the evacuation bell." Rethan's mouth tightened. "Then release soldiers first, correct civilians after. The vault's sealed because that order kills beyond the declared path. You would sacrifice 6,000 dragon soldiers for village roads?" Tavia rose slowly. No, I would stop you from making them the reason those roads die. The bridges went silent. Aric looked at her then, fully. It was not softness. Nothing in him had softened, but something had turned, like a dragon beneath ice hearing a sound it knew from blood. Second chamber, he said. The black choking cloud appeared behind Ember Glass. It had been threaded through the red bank, not listed as paired release. Tavia's stomach dropped. Paired wrongly, the black cloud would not smother flames. It would hold people in place while the red bank burned above them. She read the second line, then the third. Gold signal clouds had been bent into false wind markers. Red clouds had been overfed. Black clouds had been hidden in civilian drift. Each chamber confirmed the same thing. The campaign sequence had been written as a fortress strike, but built as a valley net. Aric's hands curled at his sides. The storm scar beneath his throat flared violet. Tavia saw him breathe through it like pain. Rethan saw too, and struck where a marshal always struck, the wound behind command. Majesty, your soldiers are under sealed descent cloud. If we wait for her perfect civilian count, the pressure below will crush wings, lungs, and dragonfire channels. The army will die inside its own cover. A low thunder answered from beneath the mountain. The storm wall around the army tightened. Aric's face went still. Tavia felt the pressure change under her feet. Rethan was not lying about danger below. A sealed descent cloud was not harmless. It trapped heat, breath, wing room, and sound. Dragon soldiers could survive longer than men, but not forever. Can you open a soldier path? Aric asked. Yes, Tavia said. Rethan exhaled in triumph. Tavia kept speaking, but not first. The triumph died. Aric's eyes narrowed. Explain. If I open the descent path before the civilian drift is cleared, the vault will read the army as priority over undeclared deaths and reseal harder. The next seal may not leave a path at all. Rethan laughed once. You expect a king to ask villagers for permission while his army suffocates? No, Tavia said. I expect a king to know where his weapon is pointed. The words landed between them. Aric stared at the 5 burning lines. Then he turned to the lower signal captain. Send evacuation bells to the valley villages. Rethan's face changed. Majesty, that reveals the campaign path. It reveals the truth. The captain ran. For one breath, Tavia thought the worst had held. Then the forbidden violet bank pressed against its chamber. The vault screamed. Not allowed. Through the glass. Every dragon on the bridges staggered. Aric dropped one hand to his throat as the violet storm scar blazed under his skin. Tavia spun toward the forbidden chamber. A new drift opened inside the sealed sky. Not red. Violet. It did not bend toward the mill road, the orchard roofs, the bridge, the chapel, or Blackmere Fortress. It curved backward through the mountain air, directly into the descent route where Aric's dragon army was trapped. Tavia whispered, that bank was never meant for the enemy. Rethan stepped back. Too late. The cracked storm-count slate beneath Tavia's hand glowed, revealing one scraped line under the first count. Not her mark. Not the vaults. A martial correction. Aric turned slowly toward Rethan Calder, and beneath the mountain, the sealed storm began to ignite from within. Heat moved the wrong way through the sealed storm. It should have risen. Fire always wanted sky, and dragonfire most of all. But beneath Mount Ver, the violet glow inside the descent cloud began pulling downward, sinking through the sealed walls in slow veins, as if the storm had found the army's breath and was drinking from it. On the high cloud arsenal, no one laughed now. Dragon riders gripped the bridge rails. Cloud guards stared through ember glass. Officers who had cheered for campaign release watched their own banners vanish below a storm wall that did not show battle, only pressure. Tavia could feel the trapped army through the vault floor, wing beats striking closed air, armor heating under cloud compression, dragonfire channels tightening in panic. Rethan Calder spoke before fear could name him. Majesty, The violet bank has ignited from internal pressure. We must open the descent gate immediately." "No," Tavia said. The word cracked across the platform. Rethan rounded on her. "Your caution has already sealed 6,000 soldiers." "My caution did not cross-feed Forbidden Cloud into their descent route." His face went still. Aric Maerovan saw it. The storm scar beneath his throat pulsed violet again. He kept one hand away from it by force, as if touching the old wound would confess too much before witnesses. "If I open the army path now," he said to Tavia, "what happens?" She looked at the sealed storm, then at the 5 burning drift lines over the valley. "The vault reads priority by release order. If soldiers are opened before the civilian drift is cleared, the vault will count the army as a shield for undeclared deaths. It will reseal around them harder." Rethan laughed with sharpened disbelief. "You would leave dragon soldiers beneath a killing cloud while shepherds and mill children reach doorways?" Tavia's voice shook once, then held. "I would not turn dragon soldiers into the reason shepherds and children die." The words did not soften the platform. They split it. Some soldiers looked at her as if she had struck them. Others looked down through the storm and understood too late that being brave did not make them immune to being used. Aric's chaza held hers. There was fury in him. Fear, too. Not fear of her. Fear of a choice that had no clean handhold. Below them, his army was trapped. Beyond them, valley villages lay under a weapon pointed where the campaign had sworn it would not go. A king could save the nearest faces and doom the unseen, or name the unseen before all his soldiers, and risk being called weak while his army suffocated. His jaw tightened. "What do you need?" Rethan turned sharply. "Majesty." Aric did not look away from Tavia. "What do you need?" The second time was not louder. It was more dangerous. Tavia swallowed. "The civilian wind mouths opened, not the war gates, the small valley mouths." A cloud captain stared. "Those are warning channels." "Yes. They do not release combat pressure. They release truth pressure." Rethan's mouth twisted. "There is no such category. There was before marshals stopped counting people below clouds." Aric turned to the captain. "Open them." The captain hesitated only long enough for Rethan to see who he had lost first. Bronze levers along the lower rim of the vault were pulled. Far beneath the main chambers, 5 small ember glass mouths opened one by one. They were old, almost decorative now, each carved with village wind signs no campaign officer bothered to polish. When they opened, they did not unleash flame. They breathed. A pale gold wind flowed down from the vault and crossed the sealed sky toward the 5 drift lines. It reached the mill road first, then the orchard roofs, then the river bridge, the school chapel, and the western footpath. Wherever it passed, the burning lines spread wider, not as threat, but as space. Evacuation space. Down in the valley, bells began to answer. Small sounds. Thin. Human. They reached the arsenal through cloudstone channels and made several dragon soldiers lower their eyes. Rethan's face hardened with disgust. "You are making the army listen to village bells while they choke." "No," Tavia said. "I am making the vault hear that the path is no longer hidden." The sealed storm below shuddered. For one heartbeat, the violet glow weakened. Aric saw it. "It worked." "Not enough," Tavia said. The western descent route still burned violet from within. That line did not move toward civilians. It curved around the army, folding under their dragons like a snare waiting for fire. Aric followed her stare. "The Forbidden Bank." Tavia nodded. "It is not a siege cloud. It is a rebound bank." The term moved across the officers with a hiss. Rethan's expression closed. Aric turned to him slowly. "Forbidden for army release." Rethan lifted his chin. "Forbidden for civilian terrain. Not for emergency dragon cover." "That is not true," Tavia said. He smiled coldly. "You are a servant. You do not certify forbidden banks." "No," she said, "but I scraped dead riders out of test vents after one was trialed." The arsenal went silent. Aric's eyes sharpened. "When?" Tavia hesitated. Rethan seized on it. Another hidden record, Majesty. She hoards fear and calls it duty. Tavia looked at the Dragon King. Before your western scar. His face changed. Not much. Enough. The violet line beneath his throat flickered, and for an instant Tavia saw the memory touch him. Storm pressing down, dragon wings beating inside Cloud. A command given because someone promised the pressure would break outward. It rebounds, Dragonfire, she said. If the trapped army tries to burn through the seal, the bank will drink their fire and harden around them. A low rumble rose from below. The army was preparing exactly that. Dragonfire gathered under the sealed storm, brightening from orange to white. Aric stepped to the edge of the platform, signaled them to hold fire. A signal officer grabbed the gold cloud horn. Rethan moved faster. He caught the officer's wrist and pressed his marshal seal against the horn mouth. "Emergency release authority," he said. Aric lunged. Too late. The horn gave one harsh note into the storm channel. It was the command that told trapped dragons to burn through Cloud. Below the mountain, dragonfire erupted from 6,000 throats. The violet bank opened like a mouth. Tavia did not think. She ran to the cracked slate, drove the broken edge across her palm, and slammed her blood into the old valley wind count. Pain flashed up her arm. The small wind mouths flared gold-white. The civilian drift lines widened across the sky, forcing the vault to keep the village paths open before it could swallow the army's fire. The violet bank struck the widened paths and split. Not defeated, divided. Half its hunger turned away from the villages. Half still drove toward the descent route. Aric seized Rethan and slammed him against the bronze vault rail. "What did you do?" Rethan smiled through blood. "I exercised the authority you gave me." "No," Tavia said, voice faint with pain. Both men looked at her. The storm count slate beneath her bleeding hand had opened at the cracked layer. Not written numbers, not ink. A buried drift groove, scratched below the surface where only pressure could reveal it. A martial correction, linked to Rethan's release seal. And beneath that, a second groove curved toward the forbidden violet chamber. Tavia stared at it, horror settling cold in her lungs. "The first count was not only altered," she whispered. "It was baited." Aric's grip tightened on Rethan. "What bait?" he asked. Tavia looked down at the sealed storm swallowing dragonfire. "Your army," she said. "He needed their dragonfire trapped before the bank could open fully." The violet bank opened wider the moment the trapped dragons burned against it. Not above them, around them. The sealed storm drank 6,000 streams of dragonfire and folded them through its own body, turning orange heat into violet pressure. Beneath Mount Ver, the descent cloud brightened like a lantern made from hunger. The army was still obeying the fire release command because command had reached them before truth. Tavia's bleeding hand trembled over the cracked slate. "Stop them." Aric Maerovan still had one fist twisted in Rethan Calder's white martial cloak. "How?" "Not with another war horn." Rethan smiled through blood. "Listen carefully, Majesty. The counter who sealed your army now forbids you to command it." Tavia looked past him to Aric. "If they keep burning, the bank keeps opening." A storm captain stared at the glowing descent cloud. "Dragonfire should break storm walls." "Not rebound cloud," Tavia said. "It drinks whatever strikes it. Every breath they give becomes wall, mouth, and path." Aric released Rethan so abruptly the marshal struck the bronze rail. "What command reverses it?" "Fold wings, lower fire, close throat flame, follow low wind, not war signal." Silence recoiled across the platform. A dragon rider whispered, "Fold wings inside sealed descent." "Only enough to stop striking the wall," Tavia said. "They must stop fighting the cloud like an enemy and move with the civilian wind mouths." Rethan laughed. "You would command dragon soldiers to make themselves small beneath a storm. I would command them to stop feeding the thing eating them." Aric looked down at the storm. Everything in him resisted. Dragon kings were raised to answer a closing sky with fire. Folded wings meant fall. Closed throats meant helplessness. Low wind belonged to evacuation paths, not royal war descent. That was why Rethan had built the trap from instinct. The violet line under Aric's throat branched toward his collarbone in the exact shape of the bank below. Tavia stared. "You know this pattern." Aric's eyes cut to her. "Not from the Count," she said. "From the scar." Rethan's smile thinned. "You survived a smaller rebound bank," Tavia said. The arsenal went still. Aric's voice dropped. "Western Ash campaign. 7 years ago." Rethan lifted one hand. "A classified wound record, Majesty. Not relevant." "You had access to it," Tavia said. "You knew his scar would answer before anyone else recognized the pressure. You knew he would hesitate because the old storm is still in his throat." The violet bank flared. A dragon's scream finally reached the arsenal, torn thin through cloudstone. That sound ended the debate. Aric seized the gold cloud horn. Tavia lunged. "No war horn." He stopped with the horn halfway raised. She pointed to the lower rim of the vault, where the old civilian wind mouths still breathed pale gold. "Use the warning channels. The vault sealed over a false war path. It will carry correction only through the channels it still trusts." Rethan spat blood onto the black glass. "If you put army command through civilian mouths, you make village witnesses part of war authority." "No," Tavia said. "You did that when you aimed the storm over their roofs." Aric set the gold war horn down. Then he crossed to the old wind console. The bronze levers there were smaller, older, marked with mill, orchard, river, chapel, and footpath signs instead of ranks. A king's hand looked strange on them. Good, Tavia thought through the pain. Let it look strange. Aric bent toward the nearest windmouth. Dragon army of Mount Ver. Fold outer wings. Lower fire. Close throat flame. Follow the civilian windmouths out. Every officer held breath. Below, the dragon fire did not stop at once. It faltered. The violet bank convulsed as the army fought instinct, fear, and the first command burning in their ears. Then one stream of dragonfire went dark, then 10, then hundreds. The sealed storm shuddered. Tavia nearly collapsed with relief. Again, Aric repeated the command. This time, pale gold channels opened through the storm walls, narrow and low. Not grand enough for a triumphal army, but wide enough for disciplined dragons willing to survive without conquering the sky. The first wing shadow moved inside the cloud, folded, alive. Then another. The army began to descend through the village paths Rethan had tried to erase. The violet bank screamed, not from defeat, from hunger denied. Rethan lunged toward the marshal's seal at his throat. A guard caught his arm, but too late. Under Rethan's thumb, the seal cracked open and released a shard of violet glass no larger than a tooth. It struck the platform and melted into the black surface. The Ember Cloud Vault went silent. Tavia's skin prickled. Below the mountain, the rebound bank stopped reaching for the army. It turned, not toward Blackmere Fortress, not toward the valley villages. The 5 burning drift lines folded upward, crossing into a single spiral above Mount Ver. Aric's storm scar blazed. Tavia looked from the vault to the spiral and understood why the army had been bait. The forbidden storm had not needed soldiers as victims. It had needed their dragonfire as a key. The spiral opened directly above the High Cloud Arsenal, and inside the Ember Cloud Vault, every sealed war cloud began unlocking from the wrong side. The first war cloud unlocked without opening its door. That was worse. If the Ember Cloud Vault had burst apart, the arsenal would have understood the danger as disaster. Men knew how to fear a broken wall, a shattered gate, a storm loosed by force. But the vault did not break. Its bronze ribs held. Its emberglass doors stayed sealed. One by one, the chamber locks turned from inside with a sound like chains deciding they had never belonged to kings. Red Seeger cloud, black choking cloud, gold signal cloud, violet rebound bank. Every seal woke. Tavia pushed herself upright, blood drying black across her palm. The vault is not releasing them outward. Aric Maerovan turned from the spiral above Mount Ver. Then what is it doing? Reassigning command. Rethan Calder gave a breathless laugh from the guard's grip. Convenient. Now, she invents another rule. Tavia looked at the vault doors. The old chamber runes were turning, not toward the campaign release path, not toward the valley wind mouths, not even toward the army descending through pale gold channels below. They were turning toward the platform itself, toward the high cloud arsenal, toward the command crown carved beneath Aric's boots. Her stomach went cold. Majesty, step off the crown. Aric looked down. The black glass beneath him had begun to glow red at the edges. The command crown was an old circle of dragon sigils used when a king named weather for war. Tavia had swept ash from it for years. She had polished the bronze channels around it. She had never once seen it light from beneath. Rethan smiled. Aric saw the smile. He stepped away. The crown light followed him halfway, then snapped back to the center with a sound like thunder held behind teeth. Tavia understood then. It was waiting for you to command through it. Rethan's smile thinned. She turned to the platform. The rebound bank did not only need Dragonfire as a key, it needed a failed royal command path. Aric's eyes narrowed. Failed? You ordered release under a false warpath. Then Rethan used emergency authority to make the army burn inside the seal. Now the vault reads royal command as unstable. If the command crown accepts that judgment, it can transfer weather control to emergency marshal custody. A storm captain whispered. That law was repealed. No, Rethan said. Suspended, for obvious reasons. Every officer looked at him. Rethan straightened inside the guard's hold as much as he could. Majesty, the army is still under storm pressure. The villages are ringing evacuation bells. The arsenal itself is compromised. Under High Cloud War Code, if royal release fails and civilian hazard expands, the Cloud Marshal assumes temporary vault control. Aric went very still. You engineered a failure to inherit command. I prepared for royal hesitation. Tavia's voice cut low. You prepared the weather to call mercy a failure. The command crown flared. The spiral above the arsenal tightened, drawing heat from the chamber locks. If it completed, the war clouds would not simply release. They would answer the marshal seal first. Rethan could name any path as emergency necessity. Valley, fortress, rival court, retreating allies, even Aric's own army. The vault would obey, because the law would be bent around panic. Aric seized the gold war horn again, but did not raise it. He had learned. That made Rethan more dangerous. You cannot hold command by silence, the marshal said. Choose, Majesty. Let me stabilize the vault, or watch your arsenal become a cloud grave. A tremor hit the mountain. Below, the first dragon shadows emerged through the civilian wind channels, folded wings cutting narrow paths through gold air. They were alive, burned, shaken, humiliated by survival through evacuation mouths, but alive. Tavia felt relief for half a breath. Then the red siege chamber began to bleed light into the command crown. No, she whispered. Aric turned to her. What does it need? Witness denial. Rethan laughed. There is no such procedure. There was before Cloud War law removed civilian witness from arsenal command. Aric's gaze fixed on her. You said the vault seals when a campaign sequence kills beyond its declared warpath. Yes. And now? Now it needs someone to refuse the false emergency path before the crown transfers control. Who? Tavia did not answer quickly enough. Aric understood anyway. His face changed. You? Rethan spoke like a blade sliding free. She is banished from the vault. The word struck the platform harder than before. Banished. By royal order. Aric's order. The Ember Cloud Vault heard law as much as weather. Tavia could read the storm, but the platform would not accept her voice while the king's banishment stood. If she stepped into the command crown now, the vault would treat her as interference. Rethan knew it. He had built this trap with law, not only Cloud. Aric looked at the removal order still lying near Rethan's fallen slate. For the first time, shame crossed his face where everyone could see it. Rethan saw it and pressed. If you revoke discipline before witnesses, every officer will know a servant frightened you into surrendering campaign command. Tavia expected Aric to rage. He did not. He bent, picked up the removal order, and tore it once down the center. The sound was small. The effect was not. The bronze ribs of the vault shuddered. The command crown's red glow faltered. Every soldier on the platform understood that the Dragon King had publicly undone his own judgment before an oath-bound storm counter he had condemned less than an hour before. Aric turned to Tavia. Tavia Wren is restored to storm count authority until the vault is lawful. Rethan's face hardened. Majesty. And no martial seal outranks civilian drift witness, while undeclared villages stand beneath Cloud Path. The gold-winged mouths flared. Tavia stepped toward the command crown. Pain shot through her cut palm as the platform tested her blood, her breath, her count, and the banishment just revoked. For one awful moment, the red glow climbed around her boots. Then it turned gold. The vault accepted her. Rethan stopped smiling. Tavia stood inside the crown and faced the spiral above Mount Vea. I deny emergency marshal transfer. Declared path false. Civilian witness active. Army release incomplete. Vault custody remains suspended until storm count is corrected. The words were not grand. They were old. That made them stronger. The spiral tore open. Instead of collapsing, it showed the inside of the Ember Cloud Vault. Chamber after chamber, war clouds chained by bronze law, each one marked with a campaign sequence. Most were current, some were old. One was hidden behind the violet bank, carved so deep it had nearly become part of the vault wall. Tavia saw the first symbol and froze. It was not Rethan's martial mark. It was not Aric's royal seal. It was the High War Council's closed cloud crest. Rethan closed his eyes. Aric saw it. Tavia's voice went thin. Rethan did not build this alone. The hidden sequence brightened. Its true target appeared inside the storm spiral. Not Blackmere Fortress. Not the Valley Villages. Not the Dragon Army. The storm path curved east, across the mountain spine, and ended over the royal capital of Maerovan itself. The capital warning bells began ringing before any officer on Mount Vea gave the order. The sound reached the High Cloud Arsenal through the eastern signal stones, faint at first, then multiplying until every bronze rib in the Ember Cloud Vault trembled with it. Far beyond the mountain's spine, Maerovan's royal capital had seen the sealed sky turn. They could not know what it meant yet. They only knew an old storm path had opened over the seat of the Dragon King. Aric Maerovan stood inside the arsenal light with his torn removal order at his feet and the violet scar beneath his throat burning like a second wound. The High War Council, he said. No one answered. No one needed to. The closed cloud crest glowed inside the storm spiral, carved deeper than Rethan Calder's martial correction, older than the morning's campaign sequence, hidden beneath layers of lawful release marks. It had not been written in panic. It had been prepared. Tavia kept her bleeding palm pressed above the command crown. Gold light climbed around her boots, holding her storm count authority in place, but the vault shook under her as if old war law were trying to remember who owned the sky. Rethan found his voice again. The council reserved contingency command for crown collapse. Aric turned toward him. Crown collapse. If the king failed to secure Blackmere, if the army became trapped, if civilian hazard spread, if the vault rejected royal sequence. Events you engineered. Rethan's mouth tightened. Events I prepared for. Tavia looked into the storm spiral. No, the capital path was not preparation. It is the reward. The marshal's eyes slid toward her. She knew she had struck truth. Aric looked at her. Explain. The rebound bank needed Dragonfire as a key. The false civilian path made the vault seal. Your failed release made royal command unstable. My restored count stopped martial transfer. She nodded toward the glowing crest. So the hidden layer opened the next authority above both of you. A storm captain went pale. Council custody. Tavia nodded. The vault is trying to send the forbidden storm to the capital because the council sequence names Maerovan itself as the emergency anchor. The platform recoiled into whispers. Aric's face went colder than command. They would aim war weather at their own capital? Rethan laughed once, without warmth. Not to destroy it, to seal it, to force unified obedience. A capital under storm enclosure cannot riot, cannot refuse levies, cannot shelter traitors, cannot question an emergency council. Tavia stared at him. Civilians become walls again. They become protected assets. They become hostages. That word struck the arsenal harder than thunder. The gold wind mouths flared in answer. Below the mountain, more wing shadows slipped through the civilian channels. The army was still escaping, but slowly, too slowly. The Violet Bank had stopped devouring their dragonfire, yet pressure remained sealed around the descent cloud. If Tavia turned all wind mouths east toward the capital, some soldiers might be trapped below. If she kept them on the army, the storm path would reach Maerovan before the city could clear its outer wards. Rethan saw the calculation in her face. There it is, the arithmetic of mercy. Which people count first? Little storm counter. Aric moved toward him, but Tavia spoke first. All of them. Rethan smiled. Then you will fail all of them. The storm's spiral tightened. Inside it, the capital appeared in ember outline. 7 ring walls, river gates, market roofs, dragon perches, temple bridges, the palace tower where Aric's crown fire burned. Over it hung the forbidden bank, not yet released, but lowering. The vault demanded sequence. Army path, capital path, war authority, council custody. Tavia felt the old rules pressing against her ribs. A storm count could not simply wish wider mercy into being. Every path required breath, pressure, witness, and command. The vault would not accept sentiment as structure. She looked at the 5 village wind mouths, then at the eastern signal stones. There are more civilian channels, she said. A cloud engineer shook his head. Not from this arsenal. Those are local valley mouths. The capital has warning bells. Yes, but bells are not wind mouths. No, Tavia said. They are witness mouths. Rethan's expression sharpened. Aric caught it. You know that law. Obsolete, Rethan said. Tavia almost laughed. She had begun to hate that word. Before weather became arsenal property, she said, civilian bells could deny a cloud path if the declared target hid non-combatant reach. A storm captain whispered, that would require the city to answer before impact. The bells are already answering. Aric stepped beside her. Can the vault hear them? Not while council custody is louder. Then make it hear. She looked at him then. He did not command it. He asked, knowing the cost might include his army, his capital, his council, and whatever remained of his certainty as king. I need your capital seal open through the wind mouths, she said. Rethan's face changed. Majesty? No. That was enough to confirm it. Aric removed the dragon seal ring from his right hand. What does it risk? If the council crest rejects it, the vault may read you as contesting emergency custody while your army is still under seal. And it could bind the storm to your bloodline. Rethan breathed. At last, she tells the truth. Aric placed the ring in Tavia's uninjured hand. His fingers were hot against hers, but not possessive, not hurried. His dragon was wounded, furious, and afraid, yet he gave the seal as if trust were a blade he chose to hold by the edge. Use it, he said. Tavia pressed the ring into the gold-lit command crown. The Ember Cloud Vault roared. Not with sound, with pressure. Every warning bell from the capital rushed into the arsenal at once. Market bells, temple bells, rivergate bells, palace bells. Small and great, cracked and ceremonial, all of them human beneath the storm. Their tones entered the gold wind mouths and spread across the sealed sky in trembling lines. The hidden council crest flared black. For one breath it held. Then the capital outline inside the spiral changed. Not empty walls, Names of districts appeared as shapes of heat and breath. River Market, South Kitchens, East Infirmary, Lower Rookery, Ash Orphan Houses, Bridge Shrines, Night Bakeries, Old Soldiers' Row. The Forbidden Bank hesitated. Tavia seized the moment. Civilian witness active. Declared emergency path denied. Capital Seal refuses closed cloud custody. The vault shook so hard 3 officers fell. The council crest cracked. Rethan whispered, "You do not know what you are opening." The crack spread across the spiral. Behind the High War Council crest, another mark appeared. Not a marshal seal, not a council seal. A dragon-shaped hollow burned into the hidden sequence. Aric went still. Tavia turned toward him, dread rising. His storm scar answered the hollow mark with violet light. Rethan smiled again, terrible and thin. "The council did not need your crown, Majesty," he said. "It needed the wound your dragon survived." And inside the Ember Cloud Vault, the Forbidden Bank began calling Aric by name. The call did not enter Aric Maerovan through his ears. It entered through the scar. Violet light spread beneath his throat in branching veins, crawling under the edge of his scale armor and down toward his chest. The Dragon King stood rigid on the black glass platform, jaw locked, one hand braced against nothing, as if he were holding back a storm no one else could touch. The Ember Cloud Vault pulsed, not releasing, inviting. Tavia felt the pressure of it in her teeth. The Forbidden Bank had found the old wound and was speaking through the exact shape of it, not with words, but with recognition. Wounded dragonfire. Survived rebound. Royal blood. Unfinished release. Aric's eyes flared gold. A low growl moved through the arsenal. Several dragon soldiers stepped back. Rethan Calder smiled from the guard's grip. "There is your answer, Majesty. The bank does not want the army. It wants the king who survived it." Tavia turned on him. "Because you taught it his wound." Rethan's smile sharpened. "No, the High War Council preserved what the wound proved. A dragon king who survives Forbidden Storm becomes the only authority the vault cannot deny." Aric's voice came rough. "You used my scar as a command route, as a stabilizer," Rethan said. "Your father's council began the theory after the Western Ash campaign. I perfected it." The storm scar burned brighter. Aric took one involuntary step toward the command crown. Tavia moved in front of him. Every officer froze. A servant counter blocking a dragon king would have been treason an hour ago. Now the vault itself held breath around her. "Do not answer it with fire," she said. Aric's eyes found hers with difficulty. "It is pulling my dragon. I know. If I refuse, it may take the capital. If you give it fire, it will take command." Rethan laughed softly. "She asks a dragon to survive by not burning." Again, Tavia did not look away from Aric. "Fold fire, name wound, do not feed it." His mouth tightened. "You speak as if wounds obey." "No," she said, "but they can be witnessed before they are used." The phrase struck the vault. Gold windlight flickered around Tavia's boots. Rethan's expression changed. Aric saw that. "What did she say?" Rethan said, "Nothing relevant." Tavia turned toward the open storm spiral. "Wound witness. It existed before Forbidden Banks were made military property. If a storm uses a survivor's scar as path, the survivor's consent must be witnessed before release." The captain stared at her. "That law is older than the arsenal." "Yes." "How do you know it?" Tavia hesitated. Rethan seized the pause. "Because she has been hiding more than counts." Aric's gaze returned to her, not accusing yet, but sharpened. "Tavia." The gold light at her feet dimmed. The vault was listening. She could not lie to a weather engine built to punish false paths. "My mother was a civilian storm, witness at Lower Vare," Tavia said. "Before witness, law was removed from Arsenal Command." The platform went still. Rethan's face hardened with satisfaction. At last, Tavia felt every bridge above her turn colder. Civilian storm witness blood had no place in the High Cloud Arsenal anymore, not after the Council's folded weather into military command. Not after witness families were dismissed as obstructionists, sentimental counters, Valley sympathizers. Tavia had hidden the line because a servant could count storms. A witness could be erased. Aric's voice was low. You concealed that from the Vault office. I concealed it from men who called civilian reach disloyal. Rethan lifted his chin. Majesty, her authority is tainted. She is not neutral. She is descended from the very witness class that weakened cloud warfare. Tavia's hands curled. Witness law did not weaken weather. It kept weather from becoming massacre. The forbidden bank pulsed again. Aric staggered. This time, flame leaked from between his teeth. Not a roar, a reflex. The storm spiral opened wider. Tavia grabbed his wrist before anyone could stop her. Heat seared her palm. His skin burned like banked dragon fire, but the moment she touched the violet scar's pull through him, she felt its shape. Not a wound asking to heal, but a hook buried years ago and left waiting. Aric made a sound like pain swallowed whole. Let go, he warned. No. His eyes blazed. It will burn you. It already has a path through you. I will not let it make you think that is choice. The gold wind light rose around them both. Rethan shouted, "Separate them." No one moved. Aric looked at the guards, and even half possessed by storm, he was still king enough to stop them with one glance. Tavia pressed her bleeding palm over the back of his hand. Say it. What? That the scar is not consent. His breath shook. The forbidden bank strained above them. Inside the storm spiral, the capital outline flickered. Below, the last of the army still crawled through gold evacuation channels, folded wings moving like broken shadows. Aric closed his eyes. For a moment, Tavia thought the bank had taken him. Then he spoke. My scar is not consent. The vault groaned. Again, Tavia said. His hand turned under hers, gripping back now, not in possession, but anchor. My survival is not command. My wound is not a gate. The storm scar split with violet light. Aric fell to one knee. The forbidden bank screamed across the sky. Not defeated. Denied. The hidden council crest inside the spiral cracked further, revealing a ring of old authorization marks beneath it. Each mark belonged to a council lord who had renewed the scar route after the Western Ash campaign. Rethan's name burned among them, but it was not the largest. At the center of the ring, deeper than all the others, was a dead royal seal. Aric looked up, breath ragged. That is my father's mark. Rethan stopped smiling. The vault projected the old sequence across the cloud wall. King Maerovan's seal, the Western Ash campaign, one wounded dragonair dragged from Rebound Cloud, and a command written over the survivor record. Preserve wound for future vault access. Tavia felt Aric's hand go cold in hers. The forbidden bank, denied his fire, changed tactics. It turned from his scar toward his bloodline. Inside the vault, the dead royal seal opened, and every war cloud bowed toward Aric as if his father had just commanded them from the grave. The high cloud arsenal knelt before a dead king's command. Not the soldiers, the weather. Every sealed chamber in the Ember Cloud Vault lowered its pressure toward Aric Maerovan, as if the clouds had become living beasts recognizing an old master's hand. Red siege banks flattened, black choking clouds curled inward. Gold signal clouds dimmed. Even the forbidden violet bank bent toward the command crown, waiting for the bloodline it had been taught to obey. Aric remained on one knee, Tavia's burned hand still locked around his. His face had gone empty in the way men went empty when pain reached a place pride could not guard. My father preserved the wound, he said. Rethan Calder did not answer. He no longer needed to. The vault had spoken for him. Tavia felt Aric's pulse under her fingers, fast and brutal. The storm scar beneath his throat had stopped branching outward. Now it burned inward, toward the heart, pulled by the dead royal seal inside the vault sequence. Rethan recovered first. Majesty, whatever King Maerovan authorized was done to preserve royal command over forbidden weather. The council maintained continuity. You can still use it. Aric lifted his head slowly. Use what? The scar route. Rethan's eyes gleamed with desperate calculation. The Forbidden Bank recognizes your wound. The war clouds bow to your blood. Take command now, and you can redirect the storm from the capital, free the army, and prove no council can replace you. Tavia's stomach tightened. There was the last temptation. Not fear. Power. A way to turn violation into dominance. A way to make the wound useful before anyone had to mourn it. She looked at Aric. If you command through that seal, you do not take the vault back. You complete what they built. Rethan snapped. She wants the king powerless. No, Tavia said. I want the vault to stop mistaking his pain for permission. The words struck the command crown. Gold wind light flared around her feet. Aric looked at the clouds bowing inside the vault, then at the capital outline still trembling inside the storm spiral, then down through the mountain where his army continued to escape through civilian wind mouths with folded wings. He could still choose conquest. Everyone knew it. He could seize the dead king's command, pull the clouds through his scar, and force the arsenal to obey before dawn. The army would praise him. The council would fear him. The nobles would call the wound destiny because power loved clean stories after dirty crimes. Instead, Aric rose, slowly, with Tavia's hand still anchoring his. I will not rule weather through a wound my father kept open. The Ember Cloud Vault roared. The dead royal seal flashed violet white. Rethan shouted, Then the vault will pass to council custody. Tavia stepped into the command crown before the glow could turn black. Pain lanced from her cut palm up her arm, but she held the old witness stance her mother had taught her before Tavia was old enough to understand why it had to be hidden. One hand to blood, one hand to breath, eyes on the path that power refused to count. Civilian storm. Witness active, she said. Rethan laughed harshly. One witness cannot overrule royal blood. No, Tavia said, but one witness can demand the rest be heard. She pressed Aric's dragon seal ring into the gold-lit crown and turned toward the eastern signal stones. Maerovan capital, valley villages, descent army. If you stand beneath declared cloud path, answer. For 3 heartbeats, nothing came. Then the bells returned. Not only from the capital, from below the mountain too. A cracked dragon horn sounded from the sealed descent route. Then another. Not war horns, not release commands. Survival calls. Riders signaling alive. Soldiers answering through narrow wind channels. Their tones joined the village bells, the mill bells, the chapel bell, the river gate, the market towers, the palace warning stones. The vault shook under the sound of the people it had been ordered not to count. Tavia lifted her bleeding hand. Declared path disputed by civilian witness, army witness, and capital witness. Dead command cannot override living reach. The dead royal seal strained. The cloud still bowed toward Aric. Waiting. He understood before she asked. Aric stepped beside her inside the crown. Rethan went still. Majesty, do not give her your voice. Aric looked at him. You mistook my voice for inheritance. Then he faced the vault. I am Aric Maerovan, he said, and the war clouds pressed closer, hungry for royal command. Dragon King by living oath, not dead scar. I reject King Maerovan's preserved wound sequence. I reject High War Council closed cloud custody. I reject any storm path that names civilians after victory. The command crown cracked beneath their feet. Not breaking, opening. Gold light surged from the old wind mouths and rose through the platform in 5 broad bands. Tavia felt the vault testing the words, weighing them against blood, law, bells, army signals, and the false count carved under Rethan's seal. Then the red siege clouds lifted away from Aric. The black choking clouds followed. Gold signal clouds turned toward the bells instead of the crown. Only the violet bank resisted. Its hunger twisted around the dead royal seal, pulling one final sequence from beneath the old king's mark. Tavia saw it and went cold. The Western Ash campaign had not been an accident. Aric's scar had not merely been preserved after survival. The old record showed a younger dragon prince sent under a rebound bank deliberately, his wound created as a future access key. Aric read it at the same time. The silence that followed was not political. It was personal. Rethan's voice came softly. Your father understood sacrifice. Aric turned toward him. No, Tavia said before the king could move. But Aric did not strike. He walked to Rethan, removed the martial seal from the man's throat, and held it up before the vault. Cloud Marshal Rethan Calder is stripped of emergency release authority, Aric said. His seal will answer witness count before war court. The martial seal cracked down the center. Inside it, a second shard of violet glass glowed. Tavia's breath caught. Rethan smiled even as the guards tightened their hold. You are still counting pieces, little witness. The shard rose from the broken seal and flew into the vault. The forbidden violet bank swallowed it. Then the entire cloud chamber turned transparent. Inside, suspended in violet storm, was not a weapon map. It was a list of names. Not soldiers, not village, civilian storm witness families. And beside the first erased name, still burning after all these years, was Tavia Wren's mother. Tavia did not reach for her mother's name. That was the first instinct she defeated. The violet chamber held the erased witness register inside a storm so clear it looked like glass made of grief. Names burned in suspended lines, each one belonging to a family that had once been allowed to deny unlawful cloud paths before the high cloud arsenal became a weapon house. Some names were pale, almost gone. Some had been cut through by military seals. Some still glowed with stubborn heat. Mira Wren burned brightest. Tavia's mother, the woman who had taught her to count wind by listening for bells before thunder, the woman who had disappeared when Tavia was 9 after saying no storm could be lawful if children had not been warned beneath it. Rethan Calder watched Tavia's face with cruel satisfaction. Now you understand why witness law was removed. It made weather answer grief instead of command. Tavia turned slowly toward him. You erased them. The council retired an obstruction class. Families. Civilian interference. Witnesses. Liabilities, Rethan said. Aric Maerovan stepped between them before Tavia could move. Not to silence her, to stop the platform from becoming a murder floor. She saw that, and the seeing hurt more than anger. He was learning where not to place his fire. The Ember Cloud Vault trembled. Inside the transparent violet chamber, the names began to shift. Not randomly, they were aligning around Mira Wren's burning mark, drawing thin threads toward Tavia's bloodied palm. A cloud engineer whispered, It recognizes a living continuation. Rethan's eyes narrowed. Or it recognizes contamination. Tavia looked at the chamber. No, it recognizes unfinished testimony. Aric turned to her. Can it clear the forbidden bank? Not by itself. What does it need? She did not want to answer. The vault answered for her. The violet storm projected a memory across the inside of the chamber. A younger woman with Tavia's dark eyes standing before the same command crown, one hand bleeding. 5 village bells sounding through storm channels. Mira Wren's hair whipped in gold wind. Behind her stood other witnesses. Before her, the High War Council's closed cloud crest glowed over a campaign path aimed too low, too wide, too near a civilian quarter. Mira spoke without sound. The vault supplied the meaning through pressure. Civilian path denied. Then soldiers seized her. The memory fractured. A council lord pressed a seal over the witness register. Rethan was younger in the vision, not yet marshal, standing at the edge of the platform and watching as if memorizing how law became weapon when witnesses were removed. Aric's face darkened. You were there. Rethan lifted his chin. I was a junior cloud officer. I learned what happens when sentiment is allowed to override campaign necessity. Tavia's voice came out quiet. What happened to her? Rethan smiled. Aric struck him before the smile fully formed. Not with dragon fire, with the back of his hand. Rethan hit the bronze rail hard enough to bleed, but the guards held him upright. The arsenal went silent. Tavia should have felt satisfaction. She did not. The vault did not care who bled for her mother now. It cared whether the path was still false. "Answer," Aric said. Rethan spat red onto the platform. She was not killed. Killing witnesses made martyrs. The council did better. Tavia's breath stopped. "They sealed her testimony into the vault," Rethan said. "Every denied path she ever made became a counterweight. Her name remains because the bank feeds on refusals it has not broken." Tavia felt the platform tilt under her. Not dead. Not alive. Worse, in a way the arsenal could call useful. Wren's testimony had been trapped inside the system that erased her class, kept as weight so future witness denials could be studied, weakened, bypassed. Aric looked at Tavia, and for the first time there was no command in his face at all. Only horror. "I am sorry," he said. She almost hated him for saying it. Not because it was wrong, because it was not enough, and he knew that too. The Violet Bank stirred behind the names. It had been waiting for pain to become fire. Tavia felt the pull. Her mother's name, her own blood, Aric's scar, the army below, the capital bells, the council crest. Every wound in the arsenal wanted to become a command path. That was what the vault had been taught. Turn grief into release. Turn survival into authority. Turn witness into fuel. "No," she whispered. The gold wind light at her feet flickered. Aric moved closer. "Tavia." She lifted one hand. "Do not comfort me." He stopped. That obedience steadied her more than comfort would have. Tavia faced the violet chamber. Wren's testimony is not fuel. It is witness record. The chamber shook. Rethan laughed hoarsely. "You cannot free a testimony record while the Forbidden Bank is active. If you try, every denied path inside it will reopen at once. Valley, capital, army, old campaigns. The vault will choke on truth before it corrects anything." A storm captain looked at Tavia in alarm. "Is that possible?" "Yes," she said. Aric's eyes sharpened. "Then what is safer?" She turned to him. "Safer is what they have always chosen." He understood. Leave the names inside. Save the army. Save the capital. Punish Rethan. Keep the witness dead buried in violet glass, because full truth might break the arsenal before dawn. It was the same bargain in finer clothing. Aric looked at the chamber, then at the surviving soldiers still crawling through gold wind channels below. "If we free the testimony, can you hold the paths separate?" "I do not know." Rethan smiled again. There, at last, honest arithmetic. Tavia looked at the names, at her mother, at the vault that had trapped witnesses so Weather could pretend civilians had never objected. "I can count them," she said. The platform stilled. She placed her bleeding palm against the command crown and spoke the first name. Wren. Civilian storm. Witness. Testimony unlawfully sealed. The violet chamber cracked with gold light. Every warning bell in the valley and capital rang at once. Aric stepped beside her and placed his scarred throat beneath the vault's glow, offering no fire, only witness. Dragon King Aric Maerovan recognizes the seal as unlawful. Rethan shouted, "Stop them!" No one moved. Tavia spoke the next name, then the next. Each name split another strand from the Forbidden Bank. Old paths opened in the storm spiral, trying to collapse into chaos, but Aric repeated after her, voice by voice, recognizing the witness record instead of commanding the weather through it. The vault fought them. Then, slowly, it began to separate grief from release. Below Mount Ver, the final dragon soldiers escaped the descent cloud. The army was alive. The capital remained under warning bells, but the storm no longer lowered toward its roofs. Tavia reached the last visible name. Her hand was numb. Her voice was nearly gone. Before she could speak it, the violet chamber darkened. A new seal appeared over the witness register. Fresh. Not Rethan's. Not the old council's. a living High War Council seal placed from the capital while they watched. Rethan laughed softly through broken teeth. "They heard the bells," he said, "and now they are answering." Across the eastern sky, the capital warning bell stopped. All at once, inside the Ember Cloud Vault, the Forbidden Bank turned toward the silent city. Silence over Maerovan was not peace. Tavia felt it the way a storm counter felt, a pressure drop before cliffs disappeared in cloud. The capital bells had not faded naturally. They had been cut. Market Bell, Rivergate, Temple Bridge, Palace Warning Stone, Night Bakery Bell, Lower Rookery Chime all stopped in the same breath, as if one hand had closed over every throat in the city. The Ember Cloud Vault heard that silence. So did the Forbidden Bank. Above the eastern horizon, the storm path sharpened toward the capital. Rethan Calder sagged between the guards and smiled through blood. The High War Council has assumed civic silence. No civilian denial remains. Tavia looked at him. Silence is not consent. It is under war custody. Aric Maerovan stepped forward, but Tavia lifted one hand. Not to stop him. To keep his fire from becoming the Council's final proof. The living Council seal burned inside the violet chamber, fresh and black, pressing itself over the witness register Tavia had begun to free. Beneath it, her mother's name flickered. Mira Wren did not vanish. None of the witnesses did. But the seal pushed them downward, trying to make old testimony smaller than new authority. Tavia's voice was nearly gone. They silenced the bells because they feared the vault hearing people. Aric's jaw tightened. "Can we reopen them?" "Not from here by force. If you strike the capital signal stones with royal fire, the council will call it emergency conflict between throne and witness. The bank will feed on that." Rethan laughed softly. She seized the cage at last. Tavia turned back to the command crown. Gold wind light shook around her boots. Her cut palm had gone numb. Her knees felt hollow. But the old witness law had one more line, one no marshal had bothered to erase because no commander respected silence enough to fear it. "When warning bells are stopped under active cloud path," she whispered, "the vault must count the absence." A storm captain stared. "Count absence?" "Suppressed witness," Tavia said. "A civilian mouth forcibly closed does not become empty. It becomes evidence." The gold-wind mouths flared. Rethan's smile disappeared. Aric saw that and moved beside her. "What do you need?" "The city districts named again. Not by bells. By the one who claims to rule them." He understood. The cost passed across his face before pride could hide it. To name every civilian district before a war vault was to admit his crown had almost let them become target, hostage, and emergency anchor. It was to place bakeries, orphan houses, markets, infirmaries, and bridge shrines in the same command space as armies and fortresses. It was to lower war beneath life. Aric stepped into the command crown. The vault shook at his presence. The dead royal seal, the living council seal, the violet bank, and the storm scar under his throat all answered at once. Tavia grabbed his wrist before the pressure could pull him through the scar, not with fire. His fingers closed around hers. "I know," he said. Then the Dragon King faced the eastern sky and began. "River Market," Civilian Reach acknowledged. A thin gold line opened through the silent air. "South Kitchens," Civilian Reach acknowledged. Another line. "East Infirmary." Another. "Lower Rookery." "Ash Orphan Houses," "Bridge Shrines," "Night Bakeries," "Old Soldiers' Row," "Temple Laundries," "Gate Workers' Quarter," "Midwall Mother's Hall." With every name, the silence over Maerovan changed shape. It did not become sound. It became outline. Heat, breath, roofs, sleeping bodies, cooking fires, old wounds, young lungs. The city appeared inside the storm spiral not as walls to be sealed, but as lives the declared path had tried to hide. Tavia pressed her bleeding palm to the witness register. Suppressed. Civilian witness active. Capital silence denied as consent. Living reach named. The council seal cracked. A violent pressure wave struck the arsenal. 3 officers fell. Bronze ribs screamed. The forbidden bank lunged toward Aric's throat one last time, trying to force the scar open and turn his named civilians into royal command fuel. Aric dropped to one knee but did not release Tavia's hand. "My wound is not a gate," he said through his teeth. Tavia answered, "And their silence is not permission." The vault heard both. Gold light tore through the violet chamber. The witness register opened fully. Names flooded the transparent storm. Maerovan Wren, and every erased family after her. Village witnesses, capital witnesses, old campaign witnesses, army survival calls, all separated from war release and restored to their rightful place, not command, not obstruction, but consent boundary. The forbidden bank recoiled. Without dragonfire, without silenced civilians, without Aric's scar, it had nothing clean to feed on. Rethan lunged suddenly, tearing free of one guard with the last strength panic gave him. He threw himself toward the command crown and shouted, "Emergency council custody!" The vault did not answer him. Tavia turned her burned palm toward him. "Civilian witness denies." Aric's voice followed, low and final. "Royal command denies." From below the mountain, the surviving dragon army sounded its cracked horns through the wind mouths. Army witness denies. The violet bank collapsed inward, not exploding, counting itself out of law. Its storm body folded into a tight sphere above the vault, then sank back into the forbidden chamber, locked behind gold witness lines instead of martial seals. The red siege banks closed. The black choking clouds cooled. Gold signal clouds returned to the bells. The 5 village drift lines faded from the sky, leaving only pale dawn over the valley. For the first time since the campaign horn, Mount Ver breathed. Rethan Calder fell to his knees. No one knelt with him. Aric removed the broken martial seal from the platform and placed it before the command crown. Cloud Marshal Rethan Calder will stand trial before army, civilian, and crown witness. The High War Council's closed cloud authority is revoked. A murmur swept the arsenal. Aric raised his voice. No weather weapon may be released beyond a declared warpath. No civilian bell may be silenced under active cloud. No storm, scar, survivor wound, or erased testimony may be used as command. From this day, all military cloud release requires civilian storm witness approval. The vault accepted the law with a low gold pulse. Tavia stared at the witness register. Her mother's name still burned. Then Maeroven's mark softened, not fading, but settling into the vault wall where erased testimony could no longer be used as fuel. Tavia pressed her hand to the glass. "I heard you," she whispered. The gold wind moved through her fingers like an answer. Aric stood beside her, close enough for heat, careful enough not to claim what grief still held. "I banished you for telling me where my weapon was pointed," he said. "Yes, I trusted the man who used my wound. Yes, I cannot command that forgiven." "No," Tavia said. His eyes held hers, amber gold and stripped of triumph. "Then command where I begin." She looked down through the clearing storm. The army was alive. The villages were ringing again. The capital bells had begun one by one, not in panic now, but in witness. "Civilians first," she said. "Full evacuation review, then wounded soldiers, then open every storm, Count Rethan sealed. After that, you may ask the vault for war." Aric bowed his head once. Not to possession, to correction. By dawn, the High Cloud Arsenal no longer looked like a weapon house. It looked like a place under judgment. Soldiers carried injured riders through the gold wind mouths. Village bells remained open. Council messengers were held at the eastern gate. Rethan was bound beneath the command crown he had tried to steal. Tavia stayed before the vault until her knees shook. Aric did not take the slate from her. He held it steady while her burned hand finished the first corrected count. Outside, The last sealed cloud broke into harmless rain over the empty war road, and for the first time in Maerovan memory, the sky did not belong to the king until the people beneath it were counted.